The dictionary definition of a miracle is an event so remarkable that it is attributed to supernatural agency. Science tells us there is no such thing and demands that we investigate. Could this be the body of someone who died 150 years ago? Bernadette Soubirous died in 1879. Her body lies on open view in a sealed crystal casket on the side altar of the chapel of the convent in France, where she spent the last years of her life as a nun. How is this possible? Is this a miracle? In death, the body of Bernadette lies, quietly awaiting an explanation from science. Yet it is the events of her life which raise even more intriguing questions and point us perhaps to other miracles. Bernadette's body was exhumed on 2 separate occasions over a period of 46 years to comply with Vatican protocol to confer sainthood. Numerous official records exist to verify the events which were witnessed by representatives of the local judiciary, the police and the clergy. 2 doctors carried out a post-mortem, signing oaths that on each occasion the body was found to be incorrupt, with no odour of decay, despite never having been embalmed. It remains in the same state of preservation today. A closer investigation leads us to other possible miracles. It is for each one of us to decide what makes a miracle. The daughter of a miller, Bernadette was born in the small town of Lourdes, France, at the foot of the Pyrenees. When the mill was lost, the family fell into poverty. Homeless, they were forced to take temporary shelter in an abandoned building, a former jail used to house prisoners. Here they lived in one room, as they scratched a living and hoped for better days. On February 11, 1858, Bernadette, then aged 14, was collecting firewood with her sister and a friend. The friends went on ahead as she waded across the shallow water of the canal beneath a rocky promontory known as Massabielle. As Bernadette paused to take off her stockings, she saw what she later described as a beautiful lady, standing in a niche of the rock, who smiled a greeting. When she returned with friends next day, the lady appeared again and spoke to her, asking if she would come to the grotto for the next 15 days. Bernadette agreed. In the following weeks, the lady appeared to her 18 times in all and made 3 requests, which were that a chapel should be built, that people should come in procession, and that they would pray. Bernadette delivered the message to the local priest, who was sceptical and dismissed the story. He gruffly suggested that the lady give her name if she wanted a chapel. The visions continued, and crowds began to accompany Bernadette. The authorities became alarmed as thousands of people converged on the little town. Bernadette was questioned by the chief of police and threatened with imprisonment if she persisted in her story. She was also examined by doctors and warned that she would be placed in the asylum. She insisted that she could not break her promise and continued to visit the grotto to pray with the lady, who by now many were convinced was Mary, the mother of Jesus. On one occasion, asked by the lady to go and drink at the spring and bathe, Bernadette could see only a small muddy pool, but did as she was asked, smearing her face with mud. The crowds began to jeer, thinking she was mad. However, within days, a spring had begun to flow at the exact spot, and the first healing miracles were being reported. A paralysed child walked after being submerged in the water. A quarryman, blinding one eye due to an accident some 25 years previously, bathed his eye and his sight was restored. These miracles and many more were medically verified. The lady continued to request a chapel, but when asked her name, the response was always only a smile, until she finally answered, "I am the Immaculate Conception." This answer was conveyed to the bishop and convinced the church hierarchy that the visions were of Mary, for this title conferred by the Vatican was one which Bernadette, an illiterate child, could not have known or understood. Work on the chapel began as thousands of people made their way to receive the water and to pray. In the months and years to follow, the grotto and the chapel became a pilgrimage site for the sick and weary, as thousands of healings were reported. Some who came, unable to walk, left their crutches behind, and soon the grotto was hung with the crutches of those who had been healed. The church was built at the grotto as requested, and today, 150 years later, over 5 million people from all over the world visit Lourdes annually. Each morning, the sick and incapacitated are brought to the grotto by a legion of volunteer carers, forming endless lines of wheelchairs and stretchers. A simple statue stands in the niche to mark the appearances. Each evening, the crowds gather in their thousands, carrying the candles which form ribbons of light, as they make their way in procession to stand and pray before the basilica erected in response to the request. So, what makes a miracle? Did Mary, the mother of Jesus, appear at Lourdes to give her message to the world? Or is the story based on the vivid imagination of a young girl? If so, what of the spring, which appeared at the place where Bernadette was instructed to drink, and continues to give 22,000 gallons of water daily, taken to every part of the world? Or the 7,000 documented healings held by the Vatican Medical Council? Is the body of Bernadette a mystery, a legacy, or a timely reminder for us all that miracles are possible if we believe?